Okay, I'm actually had Factor 91.3 Nigeria Info here in Port Harcourt and Dial. And discussions continue. Thanks for staying tuned. The matter we'll discuss next is the latest protest organized by organized labor throughout the entire country. Well, here's a story from our bulletins, our earlier bulletins. Organized labor protested across the country today against plans to remove minimum wage from exclusive legislative list to allow states to decide the minimum wage. The Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress protested in Abuja, Lagos and Port Harcourt. NLC President Ayuba Waba led the protest in Abuja.
We said no to such approach. That's why insecurity has continued. I know that the issue of kidnapping, the issue of banditry falls within the jurisdiction of a state to take care of it. You don't require a national law, and most of them are failing in this important responsibility. We must expose some of those things because the resources have been chattered away. And therefore, workers are not the problem, workers are the solution.
Recall that a bill seeking to remove the negotiation on minimum wage from the exclusive list to the concurrent list passed the second reading in the House of Reps on February 23. According to the sponsor, Garaba Mohammed, the bill is to allow both the federal and state governments to freely negotiate minimum wage with their workers in line with federalism. And the NLC in Rivers State joined their counterparts across the country this morning to protest against the bill to allow states to decide the minimum wage. The workers are against the move by the National Assembly to move workers' salaries from exclusive to concurrent legislative list. The protesters marched to the Rivers State heart of the state. What's your take on this? Should states be allowed to independently negotiate minimum wage with the workers in their states? Is what we're discussing right now. My guest, the NLC Chairperson in Rivers State, Comrade Beatrice Itubor, is on her way to the studio. Hopefully she makes it here in time. Or at least in time enough for us to have a conversation. But before then, I'd like to get your take on this. The lines are open right now, 0817-923-0002 or 0003, 0817-923-0007 or 0009. We're live on Twitter at Nigeria Info PH. Go to facebook.com/Nigeria Info PH, and WhatsApp is on 0809 030 6416. Should states be able to or be allowed to independently negotiate minimum wage with workers in their states? And there are implications to this, of course. It means that minimum wage across the country would very likely differ from state to state. Is that a good thing? Or should we still leave it on the exclusive list, such that the federal government only can determine this, and it becomes the national minimum wage? The phone lines now. Hello, hard fact to welcome.
Hello, good evening.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, it's lovely, okay. That's the practice in most Western economies where I have provinces setting their own minimum wage. It's lovely. However, the Nigerian may not allow that to work.
The Nigerian what?
Sorry?
The Nigerian what?
The Nigerian nest
Oh,
in our
okay.
leaders may not allow it to work.
Okay.
And even this minimum wage that we have, how many? I will have litanies of states that are owing salaries.
What Nigerian nest will not make it work?
You know, our political leaders are often known not to pay salaries. So not to even think of when they now set it themselves, they will not pay.
Yeah, but whether they set it themselves or not, I mean, even if the federal government sets it, it doesn't place a compulsion on the governors to pay, as you have rightly identified.
Yes, it doesn't.
So what difference will it make if the federal government sets it or the state government set it?
No difference as it is. As we've even seen now, even states that are rich enough to pay do not even pay the minimum wage. And a case in point is Rivers State, who says if they set it, we will pay. And it's not been paid. They talk about it every day on the radio. Not to talk of why not give them the arm and the knife. They will not pay. And if they pay very little. So it's a lovely idea, but not practicable. Not practicable yet in our system. Not practicable. That's my opinion.
All right, sir. What's your opinion? I'd like to hear it. 913, hello. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, hard fact, you're welcome.
Yeah, good evening.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, it's a very good development. They welcome idea. The reason is because our naira varies from state to state. In the north, things are very cheap, but here they are very expensive. So states to control their minimum wage. Rivers, Delta, Edo, all the south east, who are producing this oil, suffering. The community is nothing to write home about. They are paying. They are starting that same oil. They're paying those in the north and in the south, the same thing. No, it's a wonderful idea.
I think you're confusing several different matters right now, and I'm not sure I have the time to explain the matters you're confusing. So I just move on. Hello, Hanfrati, welcome.
Hello, Daya.
Hi, you're welcome. Go ahead.
Hello, Daya. Good day.
Hello, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Stevie, calling from Rumek. Listening to your topic is a very nice one. They are allowed to control their own minimum wage. My own view is that the state should be allowed to control set their own minimum wage. Reason being that you cannot ask the man to pay for what you employ for when you are not the one funding it. What I'm saying, there's no reason, there's no justice for the federal government to set a minimum wage for the state to rise. It doesn't get.
But usually, when these negotiations are taking place to set the minimum wage, the states are represented in that discussion as well.
Hello?
When the negotiations are taking place to determine what the national minimum wage will be, the states are also a part of those negotiations.
No. The utility states are there as long as it's called a national negotiation. But the states may not have their own say. See that we want to get this thing right. The states employ these civil servants or whatever, and the states should be able to set. Let's say, for example, I have a business. With somebody else tell me how to pay my workers. I pay my workers based on my profit days.
Hold on. Can you slow down, please? Now, in a way, government does tell you what to pay. Actually, what I mean is this. Now, if there is whether it's a national minimum wage or a state minimum wage, as you are advocating right now, what happens in that case is the government has told you, as a private employer, that the minimum you can pay anybody in your employ is X amount. So in a way, government does tell you what to pay your workers.
Okay. Let's look at it again this way. If the government tells me to pay 100,000 naira minimum wage, and my profit base cannot carry 100,000 naira, what do you expect me to do? I'm looking at myself as a state now. The truth is that I can't pay what I cannot. I can't give what I don't have. So I am a strong supporter that each state should be allowed to set their own minimum wage based on their GDP.
All right. Hello, Hotfront. It's 5:5 at 5:30. We've got the headlines coming up, and discussions continue till 6 p.m. Of course, major news comes up at 6. Before the moment, should states be able to independently set their own minimum wage? Hello, Hotfront. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Dayo, you're simply an enigma, first and foremost. Thank you for the great job you're doing in River State and Port Harcourt precisely.
Thank you, but could you turn down the volume of your radio set, please?
And secondly, please, in your capacity as
Please turn down the volume of your radio set.
Can you hear me?
All right, 5 now, and just about half a minute. It will be 5:30 and time for the headlines. A break for that. I'm not sure I can take another call right now. I simply do not have the time for it, so apologies for that. But you can also join the conversation via Twitter at Nigeria Info PH, also facebook.com / Nigeria Info PH as well. We go for the news and a subsequent break, and hopefully when I return, my guest will be in the studio here. Please stay tuned. Halifax return shortly.
Headline News, Nigeria Info on
92.3.
Headline News.
Good evening, I am Constance Mega. Organized labor protest plans to allow states decide minimum wage. Teachers of demonstration schools in Rivers State protest unpaid salaries. Appeal court in Port Harcourt strikes out appeal filed by 22 sacked local government council chairmen elected during second tenure of former Governor Chibike Amechi's administration. House of Representatives calls on federal government to ensure Ibori loot is returned to Delta State. On the foreign scene, Russia slows down speed of Twitter. In business, cost of food items reduce in markets in Port Harcourt 1 week after strike by foodstuffs and cattle dealers in Nigeria. In entertainment, Meghan Markle files formal complaints against broadcaster Piers Morgan after he criticized her claims against the royal family. And finally, in sports, Nigeria's under-19 volleyball boys team retained title as champions of Africa. Contact our newsroom on 0818-900-0017. Thank you.
Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817-001-8162. That is 0817-001-8162. And let us connect you to your customers.
We crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. All for you on fire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All
Hard Facts with Diode.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining once again. Still Hard Facts to 90.3 Nigeria Info. Here in Port Harcourt. I'm Diode 21 minutes ago before 6 p.m. And the conversation continues. Organized labor protested across the country today against plans to remove minimum wage from the exclusive to the concurrent legislative list to allow states to decide minimum wage. NLC and TUC protested in Lagos, Abuja and Port Harcourt. NLC President Ayuba led the protest in Abuja. Here's some of what he had to say. Once again, just a moment while I bring that back. Alright, here we are.
We say no to such approach. That's why insecurity has continued. I know that the issue of kidnapping, the issue of banditry falls within the jurisdiction of a state to take care of it. You don't require a national law, and most of them are failing in this important responsibility. We must expose some of those things because the resources have been chattered away. And therefore, workers are not the problem, workers are the solution.
And I'm asking, should states be allowed to determine independently the minimum wage in their corresponding states? I've got a few messages here via WhatsApp. Good afternoon. Yes, it's a good thing, but the state government will not do it right, as Joseph from Port Harcourt. I support each state to decide that minimum wage because house rent, school fees, feeding varies from state to state. Thank you. That's from Chima. Oh, my guest is in the studio now, NLC Chairperson here in River State, Comrade Beatrice Itubor. Madam, good evening to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Dayo.
I imagine you've had a very busy day today with the protests and all of that.
Yes, of course.
Well, thanks for making our time to be here nonetheless. Let's get straight to the matter then. What intrinsically is Labour's concern with this? Number one, it's not peculiar to Nigeria. As a matter of fact, one might even say it's international labor standard, because even in some of the most advanced societies of the world, minimum wage is determined. There may be a national framework for what minimum wage is, but component states also determine, especially in those countries that practice the federal system as we do here. Component states also have their own minimum wage, and in some cases, I must add, the minimum wage in some states may even be higher than what the national minimum is. What then intrinsically is Labour's concern with that being implemented here in Nigeria?
Oh, thank you, Dayo. That's a very wonderful question. The truth is that minimum simply means it's a baseline whereby no employer is supposed to go below. That's what it meant by minimum. And it is practiced in more than 90% countries. It is an ILO issue. It is not even a Nigerian issue. ILO has signed these conventions, and so many countries, including Nigeria, have also domesticated them. And so you cannot just jump up one day and say you will not. In America that we are talking about, yes, you know that some of the states pay more than the federal, but there is a federal minimum, national minimum wage. Therefore, there you now come to the peculiarity of the state. Like here, yes, in River State, maybe Lagos, the issues of house rents and the cost of living and all that cannot be taken into consideration. And therefore, that's why some of these states ought to even pay more than the national minimum wage. But that national simply means it is a baseline that nobody should go under. It's not just for the states and the federal, even the unorganized sector. The private sector, they are supposed not to go below that. What they are now saying is that if now everybody is now removed from the executive list and brought to the concurrent, it simply means that anybody can go out any day and hire somebody and decide what he or she wants to pay. I can bring in somebody and say, I want to pay you $5. But if people are actually unionized and you have up to 10 employees, you ought to pay what the national minimum wage is saying. And then if you look at the peculiarity of the state whereby you are working or the environment, you should be able to look at it and see how you can also make workers smile. By looking, for instance, house rent in Port Harcourt and house rent in some of these states are not the same. I know that some of my colleagues in some of these states, 2-bedroom flat, they pay less than 70,000 naira. Here in Port Harcourt, that is not the case. And so we should be able to look at these things and then begin to know where we ought to add premium and then see how we can also alleviate the sufferings of the workers. It's not coming to add to it. You believe you, Dayo, that if they allow the national minimum wage to be decentralized, to come to the concurrent legislative list, of course, you know as well as I do, that some governors will not even pay. And then private sector too, you see that people where players will not begin to bring in people, and ensure there will be slave labor. I thought you put it that way. And so we are saying no. Let us continue the work because we are not the only country.
But doesn't that raise questions as to the effectiveness or efficiency of even organized labor as well? Now, those countries that you referenced the US, for example, yes, we do have a national minimum wage. But then again, even the minimum wage set by the component states must have been the result of negotiations between organized labor in those states and the government in those states, taking into consideration the peculiarities of those states. So even if the leadership, political class in the country now have their way with what they're planning, it might seem unlikely because of Labour's stand. But even if, hypothetical scenario, the government did have their way and they were able to decentralize this, can the organized labor and the component states still come to agreement with the state government as to what they believe, considering all the parameters available to them, that this is what is ideal for workers in this state?
Of course, if we are staying in an ideal society where people really have respect for others, you know as well as I do that even in most of these states, the state chairman of organized labor, both TUC and NLC and Joint Council, cannot even go to the governor to say anything. Not even now that there is a national minimum wage. They don't want you to talk, not to talk of when there is none. And then they begin to tell you why they should not pay, why it is this way or the other way. And the next thing, they begin to harass you, intimidate you. And before you know it, you go back your ears, and then you can no longer say anything. So we are not saying that it must be that minimum wage. At least after all, before we negotiated at the national level, there were components that came. Stakeholders were invited. The governors brought their own representatives. Labor brought their own. Organized, the private sector brought. Then the federal government came. That is why they came together. And they took a lot of things into consideration. There is no way you can just come and give a bloated figure that you not say some states may not be able to pay. They took a lot of things into consideration. If not, 30,000 naira is not a minimum wage. How much is 30,000 naira? How much is a dollar? And so you look at it that workers are being impoverished, but then let it be that we are carrying everybody along. This is the baseline. Nobody should go below this. But you can negotiate for and above the minimum. That's what they are saying. So it's not a big deal. I don't know why the Kaduna Federal Constituency Mandate or whatever he's called should accept. I don't know where he got that idea from, but I want to believe that there are some people that are pushing him. But it will not work by God's grace.
Oh, it may not be far-fetched to identify those that may be pushing it, because even right now, even the new national minimum wage not so new anymore, but maybe still new in some states, the national minimum wage of 30,000 naira isn't even being paid in some states. I think in Kaduna that you mentioned just now, that's where you have Ganduji, I think.
No.
Or is it Kano, pardon me? Pardon, that's in Kano State rather. I think that there was something done recently to even reduce it, or the state was saying it can't pay 30,000 naira. So we already have states who are saying we can't pay the 30,000 naira. Even that national minimum wage, we can't pay it.
We know that those that are beating the drum, you know as well as I do, those that are beating the drum. But we are saying it will not work, because that is just the baseline. And if Nigeria is a signatory to ILO conventions, and we have signed, domesticated those documents, and of course, we ought to continue to implement them. So I don't know where they are coming from, but of course I know that reason will prevail, and that bill will not see the light of the day.
Now, there are two sides to this, and it's very convenient for us to talk about international conventions such as the ILO convention, how that there should be a baseline. And in our case, 30,000 naira is serving as a baseline, even though some might consider it as to be a ridiculous baseline, because 30,000 naira really, you wonder what it can do for anybody, even an individual, let alone a family. But that said, like I said, there are two parts to this. Is Labour also playing its role here in ensuring that governments are held accountable and governments do the right thing and come good and do right by workers in the country?
Of course, I would say Labour is playing its part. We have never rested. Each time there are obnoxious policies, you see Labour coming out to challenge. Why do we do that? Because we believe that if resources are well managed to the extent that we can begin to do the right things, of course, paying minimum wage or whichever wage that we agree upon will not be a problem. But because of these diversions here and there, that's why they are not paid. That is why each time you see Labour coming, people may begin to wonder, why are they delving into issues that does not really concern Labour? But we know that all these things will culminate into one thing. And at the end of the day, workers will be the people that will be worst hit. And that is why most times their Labour will come out. And like today's, on the protest of today, is our core issue. We are saying, leave this thing where it is. People can go about and negotiate. After there are some states that said, yes, we can pay the 30% minimum wage, but we cannot follow the other percentage of the consequential adjustments. And they have gone into negotiations and have come out with figures. Nobody killed anybody. So why not allow this thing to be there if there are no ulterior motives? If they don't want to see how they can emasculate the workers and see how they can bring workers to nothing, they want to breed a class of working poor people, but God will not allow it.
Part of why I ask if Labour is really playing its role is, okay, we have a national minimum wage of 30,000 naira, and like you rightly identified, there are states that one could rightly assert that should be paid more than that. So one would expect that the organized labor in those states should have reached agreement with government in those states to pay higher. And off the top of my head, I would say Lagos, and I would even add Rivers State to that list as well, of states, not just because they earn significantly more than other states, but the cost of living in those states is significantly higher than other states as well. You can't compare how much the cost of living here in Rivers State, for example, to a place like Oyo State. I remember when I was in secondary school, and Gomosho that time, and I had to pass through Oyo for some reason. I went via a road trip, and I discovered that was far back as when I was in secondary school. They were still collecting coins for public transportation, something that had been phased out in Lagos as far back as then. So but we don't have Labour in the component state having those discussions and bringing about such effects even in the states even now.
Well, I would say we are doing our bit. I don't know for other states, but here in River State, you can attest that we have not rested on our oars. We have been trying. The truth is that, like I said, when you have people that have divergent interests, the interest of the political class is what they will deliver so that people can see and applaud them. The interest of the workers is what will come so that at the end of the month, what will go to the workers' pocket. And so these are divergent interests. And so all you can do, now there is a baseline below which nobody should go. And then you come and you begin to negotiate. And if you see that this issues, there is no way, you will try your best. There are instruments that are there that you will also use. And at the end of the day, the worst that you can get is going below, which of course you will say, I will not go below. So I must maintain. So I think it's a step in the right direction. We are trying our bit. And I believe that there is still more to be achieved by the grace of God. We are not resting.
But if we're here in Rivers State, as the last time you and I had a conversation, and we've had several conversations about this, the agreements reached so far with the Rivers State government is to maintain the level at which the federal government has pegged the minimum wage of 30,000 naira and consequential adjustments as well. There is no talk about even going higher than that. I know that was Labour's position originally, but in negotiating with the Rivers State government, you appear to have reached an agreement of maintaining the federal government's level.
You wouldn't know what we brought to the table. There are so many cards that we are thrown on the table, but if at the end of the day, we looked at all the parameters and we now said, okay, the worst that we can get, let us not go below what the federal government is doing. I think it's a step in the right direction.
How far is Labour...
Still hoping for more, because it is not foreclosed.
How far is Labour willing to go to ensure that this plan to decentralize the minimum wage does not see the light of day?
Well, you heard our president saying it during the last NEC meeting. Of course, it was visual, but we are told there are laid down plans, action-packed plans. This is just the first phase. This protest is the first phase. There are so many other things that are laid down. And as they continue to give us directives, we will continue to comply here in the States and then see how we can press home our point. But I want to believe that that bill will not see the light of the day.
What gives you that confidence?
I don't know, but I'm having that inner strength that nothing is going to shake us, because by the end of our meeting, during the last virtual meeting, the decisions that we reached, they are far-reaching decisions, and I believe that when they are all implemented, of course, they will have no other alternative but to bow.
How about this logic? 30,000 naira that doesn't come frequently, or comes and it's staggered, or maybe some reduced amount and consequential adjustments reduced as well, that the state government will be consistent in paying?
It is not a matter of paucity of funds, I would tell people. It's a matter of political will or priorities. These people that are saying that they don't have enough money to pay minimum wage, look at their lifestyles. The myriads of AIDS and other things they are doing here and there, their lifestyle has not reduced. They live large. They collect a lot of allowances, and at the end of the day, even when they are going, they go with a lot of money. If we can review all those leakages, see how we can mop up cash, I believe that paying minimum wage, every state in this country should be able to pay that minimum wage and the consequential adjustments with prudent management. It's just a matter of priority and then the political will.
Maybe I can take a couple of calls now before we wrap this up shortly before 6 p.m. 0817-923-0002 or 0003. 0817-923-0007 or 0009. Those are the numbers to call via WhatsApp. If states can apply the principle of the ability to pay, states should also control their revenue. States can be collecting monthly allocation from federal and paying less than 30k. Hello, I'd like to welcome.
Hello.
All right, go ahead.
Hello?
Hello, Hard Factor, welcome. Go on, please. Once again, 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003, or 000709. Hello, you're welcome. Please go ahead.
Good evening.
Hi, go ahead.
Why, guest, anytime you invite a guest in the studio, you always come late.
Could you address the matter that's being discussed, please?
You always come late. I beg.
Hello, Hard Factor, welcome.
Hello?
Good evening, go ahead.
God bless you. God bless you.
Go ahead.
I have the number of these ladies just spoke.
I guess they may just have to move on. So, we're currently aware that there are ongoing negotiations between Labour here in Rivers State and the Rivers State government on certain agreements reached regarding the welfare of workers, consequential adjustments, matters related to pensions, gratuities, and general welfare of workers in the state. Would you be willing to comment on the discussion so far?
For now, let's just keep it in abeyance. When we conclude, I'll be able to say something.
All right. Hello, 91.3.
Hello, good evening, Dayo.
Hi, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Mrs. Beatrice.
Good evening. How are you today?
I'm good. My name is Legend, calling from Port Harcourt.
Go ahead.
I want to ask a question on this issue because in the last 3 years, at least Labour has been threatening to go for strike for not less than 3 times, and at the end of the day, nothing come out. So, what is the confidence of the masses? What is level of confidence at this time that the negotiation is going to be fruitful?
Well, we are confident because this issue, like I said earlier, is our core issue. Most times while we sometimes abort strikes and protests, the leadership knows I see more than we that are followers. And so when they look at danger signals and they know that this strike will not take us to where we are really aiming to get to, then of course they will abort it. Because the truth is that no matter the strike or protest that you go, the end result is that you want what you want to be implemented. And if without going to strike, you have already gotten the thing done, of course, what's the need for strike? And then if you look at it going on protest, maybe hoodlums will hijack and cause a lot of problem. You look at it and then somehow you self-pedal. And so sometimes it is wisdom that prevails. It's not as if labor is weak. And there's a saying that the gentle stride of a tiger is not a sign of cowardice. So I want to believe that this time around, this is our core issue. And I believe that we'll tackle it head on.
Very quickly as we wrap up the conversation, there are concerns. I've got a few messages here. Concerns about Labour not being very or much concerned with the private sector, and even the minimum wage in many instances in the private sector is not being implemented, and Labour doesn't seem very concerned about that.
Well, Labour is very, very concerned about the private sector because in Labour, in organized Labour, we have both the private sector unions and the public sector unions. And each time there are issues, both in the private or public sector unions, we come out and begin to take our positions and see how we can tackle those issues. The truth is that if you are in a place, an organization, and there are some abnormal practices, and you have not reported the issue to your union, and your union in turn has not reported to Labour, I don't think I am a witch to begin to know what is happening in those places when I'm not working there. So it is only the information that we get that we work on. And we have come out severally to encourage workers. There are obnoxious labor practices in your organization. Do well to come out and tell your in-house union first, and then the in-house union in turn will now tell the organized labor. That's the labor center. And then we begin to spring into actions. I will not begin to act on things I don't know. I don't see how I will begin to postulate things that are happening where I am not. Then I'll begin to follow. People must come to report. And if there's anybody or any worker who says he or she has reported anything to us and we have not acted, the person is free to act here.
We'll have to draw the curtain on the conversation. I imagine the coming days and weeks will give quite a lot for us to discuss still on the subject matter. Thanks for joining, especially my guest, NLC Chairperson here in Rivers State, Comrade Beatrice Itubor. Many thanks to you.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
We've got the major news coming up shortly, and discussions continue afterwards. The open season. I'll be back in a moment, so please stay with us.